Greetings, my dear friends. ये क्या हुआ, कब हुआ, क्यों हुआ? An old Hindi song very aptly describes the happenings in Bangladesh in the last couple of weeks. While the kya hua, kab hua are very easy to answer, the big questions remain: क्यों हुआ, कैसे हुआ, and more importantly, क्या होगा next? These questions cannot be left unanswered, unlike what is suggested in the song. Don't forget, India has invested heavily in Bangladesh and in Sheikh Hasina, both financially as well as politically. So much so the average Bangladeshi feels Sheikh Hasina and India are synonymous. There are multiple players in this game. India, obviously, shares much of the 4,000 plus kilometers boundary with Bangladesh. The US, China, Pakistan, Myanmar, which has just 80 kilometers of the balanced boundary, but the ISIS also. So let's get on to kyun hua and kaise hua. There are plenty of conspiracy theories. Was there really a regime change operation here? If so, who did it and why? Well, to be honest, no country will ever accept that it did something like this, especially in another country and openly. One can only make intelligent guesses and connect the dots to make a coherent picture. Welcome, my dear friends, to ChaxSimplifies, your host, Chax, that's me, and your channel to demystify and simplify complex geopolitical issues into easily understandable bites. There are numerous flashpoints in the world, especially in our neighborhood. The newest among them is Bangladesh, where we've just seen a bloody revolution and a consequent regime change. This is the second episode of the series of global flashpoints, where we will examine a flashpoint and briefly discuss the goings-ons there. Here, we will examine Bangladesh, with specific reference to is there a foreign hand? Especially, who is this foreign hand? The US, China, Pakistan, or a combination of them? How does it affect us in India? And some prognosis for the future, that would be my personal opinion. So let's take a look at the trigger first. In 1972, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman brought in 30% reservation for children of freedom fighters in government jobs. This was a total out of the total of 56% reservation in Bangladesh at that time. This reservation was reduced to just 5% by Sheikh Hasina in October 2018 post protest by the students. An additional 2% was reserved for differently abled, therefore leaving 93% for open merit. In 2021, 7 children of the freedom fighters went to the Dhaka High Court for reinstatement of this reservation. This 30% was reinstituted following the High Court order on the 4th of June, just as India's election results were being declared. On the 5th of June, the student protest started. Sheikh Hasina immediately appealed not just to the students but also against the High Court judgment to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court took 45 days plus to pronounce its judgment on the 21st of July. This Supreme Court judgment set aside the High Court ruling of reinstituting the reservation. Immediately accepted by Sheikh Hasina as well as by the student leaders, who decided to stop their protest. However, virtually immediately new demands surfaced and the rioting started all over again. In fact, it got worse. Undoubtedly, Sheikh Hasina made some very derogatory comments that possibly added fuel to the fire. Sheikh Hasina left Dhaka on the 5th of August, not in any glorious manner. She fled. Muhammad Yunus, a choice of the student leaders who spearheaded the protest, was sworn in as the interim Prime Minister on the 8th of August. So who is Muhammad Yunus? Muhammad Yunus is a Nobel laureate. He is known as the banker to the poor, with his pioneering work in microcredit, lending mainly to the poor and mainly women. He started the Grameen Bank, and for this work he was awarded the Nobel Prize. Ford Foundation and George Soros invest heavily in Grameen Bank, Grameen Telephone. In fact, the first 100 million of the Grameen Bank came from George Soros. Muhammad Yunus was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Presidential Citizen Medal, Congressional Medal, Gold Medal, the Magsaysay Award. All point to his being groomed by the deep state or the US for the top job in Bangladesh, now biding his time. He became an active participant in the campaigns of National Endowment for Democracy, a platform created by Ronald Reagan to promote democracy, a convenient tool for the CIA to work behind the scenes and hide its game. Incidentally, this NED has played an important part in destabilizing many countries, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, all against the Russians, Nepal, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and of course now Bangladesh. Many other countries also figure in it, but let's stick to these. In 2011, Yunus was forced to resign from Grameen Bank on charges of fraud and nepotism. So let's take a look at the key players and their interest in engineering a coup. Let's start with the US. The US enjoyed very good relations with Bangladesh, and it is its third largest trading partner. Relations soared over human rights and murder of democracy, a convenient charge for the US starting 2023. Victoria Nuland, Donald Lu, their favorite engineers of regime change, met Khalida Zia and also the Jamaat. Very soon a narrative started which started calling Hasina an undemocratic leader. Peter Haas, the US ambassador in Bangladesh, met many other activists, and he advocated holding of elections under a caretaker government. Have you ever heard this happen anywhere in the world, including the US? At least I haven't. Elections came under a cloud with the opposition staying away, and don't forget the US imposed sanctions in 2023. The turning point of US-Bangladesh relations was the commencement of a submarine base in Cox's Bazar. This was built by China to accommodate 6 submarines, while it transferred 2 old ancient submarines to Bangladesh. China had already put a foot in the Bay of Bengal with a Kharagpur deep sea port in Myanmar, and was using Cocos Island as a listening post again in Myanmar. The US has bases across the globe, but not in the Bay of Bengal. It zeroed on to the St. Martin's Island for an air base, a unique position from where it could oversee not just China, but also keep a watch on India, especially its northeast, and the Bay of Bengal, where India tests its missiles. Sheikh Hasina was unwilling to come on board, and she made a statement saying that she could have conveniently won the election if she had agreed to the change of guard at the St. Martin Island. China, on the other hand, employs full-scale checkbook diplomacy, debt trap, and military dependence. The basic Chinese strategy is to get unhindered access into the oceans. It is presently held back due to the first and second island chains and the Malacca Straits. It needs to offset the Malacca dilemma, enter the BRI and the CPEC. However, sadly, both don't seem to be very successful. It needs to checkmate its only competitor in Asia, that is India. It tried multiple entries into Bangladesh, and today Bangladesh is the recipient of 17% of Chinese exports, military exports, second only to Pakistan. It has handed over two Janeway class frigates, two MiG class submarines, besides trainer aircraft, anti-aircraft guns, and missiles. It built, like I said, a submarine base in Cox's Bazar. However, substandard equipment has led the Bangladeshi army to protest in 2022 and start to scale down its purchases. China has provided $30 billion in loans and infrastructure projects, especially railroads, energy generation, transmission, and telecom. Of late, Bangladesh seems to be veering towards India, taking decisions that were favorable to India. For example, the Sonadia deep sea port, the Teesta Water Development Program. Trouble with the armed forces continues with substandard weapons and equipment. And when Hasina went with a begging bowl for $5 billion loan denominated in Chinese yuan, China refused. Sheikh Hasina cut short his visit by 1 day and came back early. China, therefore, has a motive. It has close linkages with the opposition also. It definitely wants to turn an Indian ally into an Indian rival. On the other hand, Pakistan. Don't forget, Pakistan was born after a bloody battle in which thousands of Bangladeshis lost their lives. Pakistan naturally wants to avenge the creation of, at that time, a secular Bangladesh and erase all mention of atrocities during their freedom struggle. No wonder all monuments relating to the liberation of Bangladesh were defaced, broken, torn apart. For Pakistan, its prize is the Islamic Bangladesh. Its strategy is to destabilize India by bleeding India through 1,000 cuts. Its tool is the Jamaat-e-Islami. Jamaat is now emerging as a potent kingmaker. Don't forget, Jamaat actually supported Pakistan in 1971, actively participating in the anti-Bangladesh riots, rape, arson in support of the Pak army. They were also called the Razakars. In 1972, Jamaat was banned by the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and its leaders fled Bangladesh. General Ziaur Rahman post his coup in 1975, where he killed Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, encouraged the leadership to return and said stop. Jamaat is rabidly anti-India. It wants the Sharia law. Jamaat also encouraged the next dictator, General Irshad, to declare Bangladesh an Islamic country. Pakistan, don't forget, is an ultimate rentier state. It can do anything for money. Its compulsion is to help the US because the US is the only one who can help with IMF loans, spares for the F-16s and its upgrade, and also US needs Pakistan's support against Iran in case required and protect Israel. So who did it? The toolkit has very clear, distinct US footprints. There are very few steps in this. The first of them is to prepare the narrative. Democracy in danger is the most favorite one, and that's exactly what the US did here. Donald Lu, Rebecca Newland, all of them met Khalida Zia, Jamaat. They also met with Khalida Zia's son in England. Peter Haas wanted an interim government to oversee the January 24 elections. It had already started grooming Muhammad Yunus to take over Bangladesh since 2007-8. The next step is to discredit the existing government. Then comes engineering an immediate trigger. Just look at the timelines. The reservation issue, which was dead, was resurrected. The High Court comes up with a controversial ruling just when the Indian election results are being declared. And it took the Supreme Court 45 days of burning of Bangladesh to come up with a judgment. Coincidence? Perhaps not. The next step is to organize a bloody street protest. Remember the Arab Spring? Remember so many other places where the street protests, including in Sri Lanka, happened? Then you start fanning this project. Despite the Supreme Court order on the 25th of July and the student leaders accepting that, Sheikh Hasina also accepting it, the protests suddenly got a new wave of life with a new set of demands. Something similar was done across the globe, from Ukraine to Venezuela, from Sri Lanka to Pakistan, perfecting it all the time. The last of these steps is to install your protege, that is Mohammed Yunus. Exactly what has happened in Bangladesh. Clearly, the US has the motive, it has the money. The price of the St. Martin's Island and its unique geographical significance and positioning to keep China in check is evident. China too has the motive as well as the money, but it has additional $30 billion of investment at stake. It would not want to stir the pot too much. Sheikh Hasina was more or less pliable with China and did not harm its interest. Pakistan has the necessary boots on ground, the ability, the means to create and manage chaos. ISI is the last mile connectivity for this. And for the US, it provides that fig leaf of possible deniability. A happy marriage of motive, money, and manpower is what has made this coup successful. The US has made its move. Has it bitten off more than it can chew? Will Bangladesh become another Iraq, Syria, Libya, Ukraine? Only time can tell. What is there for it in India? Bangladesh is no stranger to conflicts and coups. It has faced constant conflicts and, you'll be surprised, 29 coups since the formation in 1971. But every time there is a coup or a conflict, the minorities, especially the Hindus, have always been a target. Just this time, the Hindu annihilation has come to light because of social media. Whoever forms the government in Bangladesh will be anti-India. Both Khalida Zia and Mohammed Yunus are anti-India. So is the BNP, and the less I talk about Jamaat, the better. Yet, Bangladesh cannot ignore geography. It cannot ignore economics. It shares almost all of its 4,000 plus kilometer boundary with India, barring just 80 kilometers with Myanmar. It gets most of its fuel supplies power from India. India is its second largest trading partner, next only to China. It accounts for 20% of imports and 3.5% of exports from Bangladesh. Its largest industry, garments, but garments are made from cotton and 98% of cotton comes from India. Bangladesh needs peace and stability and definitely not new economic shocks. The current economic situation is precarious with rising inflation and unemployment. Secondary triggers for the current conflict. India too needs Bangladesh for connectivity with the northeast region and to offset the chicken's neck. It cannot let China take over Bangladesh in any form. Hindus are the largest minority with almost 8%, and their safety for India is a concern. On the other hand, India is home to the largest Muslim population in the world. It cannot isolate itself from the happenings in the Islamic world. It has to manage its own people, thereby preventing internal escalations. Nervous and worried. That is India post Sheikh Hasina's departure. It is looking to build bridges with the new government. But will the new government address India's concern of security, connectivity, terrorism, and the vulnerability of chicken's neck? Who will the people of Bangladesh elect after the interim government goes? What will be the future of Jamaat? Nervous and worried is the establishment in India. The ominous events triggered by the trio of US, China, and Pakistan have cast their own shadow here. We too are seeing similar machinations, with the opposition calling the Prime Minister a dictator, attempts to discredit polls, EVMs, create narratives against the government from various indices, from Freedom Index to Democratic Index to Hunger Index, you name it, from a feverish hunt for triggers of mass protests, farmers, CAA, NEET, Hindenburg, caste census, and now even Vishnesh Phogat or the tone of the speaker in Rajya Sabha, no dearth of attempts. Nervous and worried are the people of Bangladesh, especially the Hindus and the minorities. Bangladesh, from an Asian tiger and a fast-growing economy, is looking at an economic downturn and political instability. Will it become another battleground with multiple factions, all vying for supremacy? The BNP, the Jamaat, the Awami League, the students, you name it. The minorities continue to face real danger. Nervous and worried is the new Prime Minister, Yunus. He has made the right noises to start his innings. But the crucial question is, how will he handle the Jamaat? How long will he survive? My prognosis, well, I do feel Bangladesh is in for turbulent times, at least for the foreseeable future. I don't see elections in Bangladesh in 3 months, maybe 2 to 3 years. India needs to be very mindful of the machinations of the unholy trio of US, China, and Pakistan. Be prepared for new narratives, street protests, and new events. India will definitely see a greater influx of refugees and will need to be very careful of who comes in. It needs to balance security requirements with humanitarian aid. It will need to show strategic patience and wait for Bangladesh to make the first move, even if it means taking a backseat temporarily to China. It needs to keep a very close watch on the Northeast, especially with respect to drugs, terrorism, infiltration, all accompanying demographic change. So where do we go from here, my friends? Bangladesh continues to be a tinderbox waiting for someone, somewhere to light it. India is critical for Bangladesh for its economy as well as security. So is Bangladesh for India, when Bangladesh show the maturity and India show the necessary strategic patience. These responses will depend and determine how this region progresses. We continue living in very interesting times, my dear friends. If you approve of the video, please leave a like. Please do comment. These immensely motivate me. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not done so, and press the bell icon to be notified of new videos. Please share this video with your friends and family, and like always, I look forward